A man I admire a lot stated in one of his most renowned lectures that if you want to succeed in any field, you just have to look at the person who has already achieved it and copy. Don't innovate, copy, he said. But this doesn't work like that in Darwinex and Darwinex ZERO. I'll tell you why after the disclaimer. Let's go. Correlation is employed in the stock exchange to gauge the degree to which two distinct assets move in tandem, meaning they are compared. To carry out this comparison, a value between -1 and 1 is used. A value of -1 between two assets indicates the presence of maximum inverse correlation or a perfect negative correlation. As one asset experiences an upward movement, the other will decline proportionally. Traditionally, major American indices like the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq 100 are negatively correlated with gold. When the former rise, the latter falls and vice versa. The underlying cause for this phenomenon stems from a change in institutional trader focus during particular market conditions, seeking safety away from the equity market, all for seasonal or recurring reasons. To safeguard capital against potential events that might transpire over the weekend when the market is not operational. A value of 0 between two assets means that there is no correlation between them. They move independently without one affecting the other in any way, and a value of 1 would indicate the existence of maximum correlation or a perfect positive correlation. In other words, both assets move identically and in the same direction. When one increases, the other also increases. A prime example of this would be the initial two indices previously mentioned. A correlation ranging from -0.7 to +0.7, up to their extreme values, is deemed high, as depicted in the accompanying image. This metric is commonly used in the creation and management of investment portfolios to diversify among assets. And as you know, if there's one thing that characterizes Darwinex, it's using and implementing industry standards. Therefore, correlation is also taken into account to compare the investable indices or Darwins on the platform. In order to simplify the tasks for investors using it, Darwinex endeavors to sustain a selection of Darwins that is as heterogeneous as possible for its investors, offering a variety of assets to invest in which they can diversify. Across both platforms, within the primary dashboard of our Darwin, navigating to the correlation tab, we will identify the Darwins that exhibit the highest positive correlation with our own. Keep in mind that Darwinex utilizes this metric to assess the similarities in performance between two Darwins, meaning how similar the movement of the profitability curve of both assets is. If you scroll down, you can see a visual comparison of both performances and a bit further down, a comparison of their main metrics. Should the correlation tab be unavailable for your Darwins, it is due to your rating being under 60 points. Once you surpass it, you will be able to perform the checks you want with other Darwins. If we look at the correlation panel, we can see a value below each of the Darwins, with which ours is highly correlated. That value is between -1 and 1. And in Darwinex and Darwinex ZERO, it is calculated using a standard correlation formula, taking the last 3 months as the reference period. As you see, only the Darwins most correlated with ours are shown here. These are the Darwins we should be most careful with. And I say careful, in quotes, because to participate in Darwinia Silver or Darwinia Gold, the element of correlation plays its part. Let me explain. Indeed, too high a correlation with another Darwin can be grounds for exclusion from Darwinia. To be precise, entry into either league requires maintaining a correlation below 0.95 with other Darwins, unless that other Darwin is from the same signal provider. In that case, that correlation must be below 0.5. If in either scenario the correlation limit is exceeded, only the Darwin with the highest monthly return at month's end will participate in that Darwinia edition. And the Darwin that at the close of the month has the highest monthly return. Does this mean that if my Darwin is excluded from Darwinia, it can no longer participate and receive allocations? No. In subsequent Darwinia editions, the correlation calculation will be re-executed, referencing the most recent 3-month timeframe. In other words, this correlation assessment is subject to continuous change. Moreover, regardless of whether our Darwin is temporarily excluded due to correlation reasons, we must continue operating normally. As it remains possible for our Darwin to ultimately participate in Darwinia by securing a superior monthly return, surpassing the performance of the other Darwin against which we would be competing. In any case, even if we don't participate in Darwinia for this temporary exclusion reason, don't worry about the monthly fee. It won't go to waste. If at the close of the month you have the minimum rating of 75 points to reach the minimum allocation, but you don't receive it, owing to the correlation factor, a credit of €38 will be deposited into your account, usable towards the subsequent month's fee or to offset the expense of a potential account reactivation. Before I give you a couple of final details, I haven't said this in a while. I remind you that if you like this type of content, you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, leave a like, and activate the bell to stay updated on all the news I'll be sharing. And if you haven't registered on Darwinex yet, down in the video description, I'm leaving you a registration link with €20 off the first payment of your subscription. On the one hand, you might be asking yourself how it's possible that a single trader can be a signal provider from two different Darwins if each account must be associated with different email addresses. Indeed, it is possible, because when it comes to classic Darwins, meaning real accounts, the signal provider can have as many Darwins as they are able to fund, using their own capital, however they please. And on the other hand, I almost forgot to mention that the correlation criterion will not be taken into account between Darwins belonging to Darwinia Silver and Darwins that belong to Darwinia Gold. They're two different leagues with different rules. A colleague asked us about this in the last question and answer video, which I've linked for you up here. And I just saw it's noted in the Darwinex ZERO documentation center. I don't know if this has always been there or if they added it following our query, but anyway, there it is. So this is correlation in Darwinex ZERO. Some of you might also wonder how one could improve or reduce that correlation with other competitors. You can't do that. In trading, there are many variables that are beyond our control. The only thing in our hands is to remain firm, sticking to our trading plan. I could suggest changing the asset, time frame, or trade duration, but the market is already complex enough without making it even more so. Continue operating as usual, it will eventually go away. To learn more and discover all the ins and outs of Darwinex ZERO, click on this video that I'm leaving for you here. See you next time.